And if anybody has questions, I'd love to talk, or if anybody, anything to discuss, we'd be happy to talk, or want to talk about the elections or how they're feeling today. Yes?
I just have a brief question. I was playing around for just a little bit over the weekend with your site, and I noticed that one of the candidates that was recommended for me isn't in the race.
Yeah.
Isn't a viable candidate.
Yeah.
Is there like an effort to weed those out, or is there a filter you put in?
Sure.
How do you approach that?
Yeah, we have something now. I'm not sure when you were checking out. If it was the other day, any candidates in the site now currently that aren't running, we still have in there, but they're indicated in red, and it's very explicitly indicated that they're no longer running. We think it's important to keep them up there because some of them are potential vice presidential candidates. So the information's in there. It should serve you, though, if the site's working properly, it should serve you only candidates who are running currently. And then when you can go to the drop-down menu to see more candidates, they should be in red to indicate they're not running. Yeah, yeah. Yes?
What is your plan for the future after the election?
Yes, thank you. Best question. It's a great question because we don't want to end after November, and we're designed to not end after November. Three main things. The first is Glassbooth is .org is really a model. In this model, we applied it to the presidential election, but you can imagine it being applied to elections at all different levels. And we're actually working on a pilot program with this Wisconsin and La Crosse Tribune to do the county board elections in Wisconsin as sort of a test of what Glassbooth looks like at the local level. And in 2010, we launch into a few pilot states and start to roll it out, partner with organizations on the ground there, and start to roll this process out into state, local, congressional, senatorial elections going forward. That's one thing. Two is a project we call Glassbooth 2.0, which we're doing with one of our large partners to help develop it, which is basically on that first screen where we ask you what you care about. That's a real opportunity because you're telling us, I care about these set of issues. And so our job then is to keep you connected to those issues outside the context of elections and permanently. So we'll deliver you information, education about those issues, as well as help you identify opportunities to get involved with those issues, and we think that's a really powerful tool. Third, and the sexiest thing I'd say by far is a potential television show, which we're working on right now with a production company to take our mission, which is our belief that there's not enough coverage of substance. This media doesn't support democracy in the way it should. Take that, package it nicely, and bring it to television. So we're shopping it right now, and let's get a television show, and then we'll be Hollywood. But those are the three main directions of the organization. Yep.
What's your response to the criticism that handpicking stuff, whether or not your sort of goal are say that you are, but it's hard to say that, given the handpicking nature of some of the presentations, actually put people on the spectrum.
Sure.
It's hard to say that you can back that up
Yeah.
with some sort of verifiable, quantifiable
Right.
way.
No, understood. Yeah, understood. That was a great question. 2 points. The first, also Robert and Mark, feel free to chime in. The first is that as far as what we cover, the scope of what we cover, that was limited. At the time that we made the website, there were 16 candidates. And so for us, and we ask we touch on 90 issues, so we ask 90 questions. To ask one question, every single candidate has to have some sort of public response, or we have to exclude the question, because everybody needs to be in the system. It makes it fair to the smaller candidates, to the candidates with less access to the media. So in that sense, we're limited in some ways to what we can cover. Second is the piece of work you identified, which is pairing their histories and their positions to a score, opposed, support. This is the one subjective piece of work that we do. So our job is to make it as accurate as possible. One thing that helps is they're scored relative to each other, which is a note. It's hard to say I oppose or support an issue, but relative to the other candidates, it's pretty easy to see where they stack up. Two is we cite all the information, and we made it really important to drive people to the rationale is what we call it, which is the presentation of the facts that inform their score. I'll say that's been really successful. In our metrics, we can see that the average time spent on site per user is around 8 minutes, which is a really large amount of time for anybody to be spending on a site with a really low bounce rate. So people are digging in and engaging. I think all that stuff, the scores, the pairing to positions and iPoser support, it's important, and we try to be as accurate as possible. It's never going to be perfect. But all of that is really a mechanism to drive people to look for more and to dive into the information in a really deep way. To click, if you read a quote from an article, click on the article, read the whole thing. And so that after you leave Glassbooth, you're just more informed about where all the candidates stand. So it's our process, yeah.
I would say also, we have a mechanism on the site by which users can contact us and indicate if they do score quality. Like, I think the basic one is that Kate's saying it's completely transparent. We want you to see information, we want you to see why we scored it that way. We've had people, beginning of the month, people contacting me, being involved in emails, and also contact saying, I think the score is wrong, see that these scores are incorrect, and every email, everything we get, at least in that regard, we look into, and we made adjustments on scores before, people are saying, not necessarily bringing us new information, but saying it seems that maybe, there's some sort of database entry error and things like that, but we made it apparent through our blog and on our web page that we want users giving you the data and saying, like coming in basically skeptical because we want to know who to vote for, we want them very active services. So because we need to do that as much as possible.
Agreed. Yes.
What percent would you say of the resources and things that how kind of explain typically comes from other media outlets,
Mhm.
and what is more quantifiable, like voting records
Mhm.
and things like that?
It's hard to shake out like what percentage of what. I think.
Or would you say you rely more on media sources?
Yeah. Well, I'd say, what's been really a great tool in this election, which is newer, is YouTube. And what better to make a point of someone than have them see exactly what the candidate has said. So we try as much to bring visual into this. And so we have a lot of YouTube clips in there. To add to that, I think for example, we cover medical marijuana in here. And when I looked out there, there's really no information. Public candidates don't like to talk about marijuana, but we think it's an important issue. So there's actually an advocacy group, and what they do is they bring a camera phone or something to the different places where candidates have town hall meetings, and they ask them questions about medical marijuana, and they get responses. This is my position. You wouldn't have heard it otherwise. Now it's on YouTube. Now we put it in Glassbooth, and it's up. So we try and bring their voting record in because it's a nice parody to their rhetoric versus their action. Law is very complicated, and there's a lot of different attachments to laws, which is why a person might vote it down, so it's hard to judge in isolation. But we try and bring a healthy mix of all the different sources, directly from the candidate, mixed with articles and all that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.